Hello and welcome to this special edition of Montclair News Lab. I'm Terry Dickerson.
And I'm Isabella Alvarez, and we're in Arizona with a team of 16 New Jersey students reporting on several stories in Arizona and the American West.
We're calling it Arizona Stories: Border, Water, and Politics.
What you guys saw at the border was the process of immigrants giving themselves over for processing into the country.
Why do people get upset about migrants? That because we have a lousy immigration system that we won't revise?
The increase in visitation has impacted almost every aspect of Grand Canyon National Park.
We just hope that we can hang on to our farmland.
They were getting them to look more westernized, was getting the Indian out of them.
I'm definitely going to be voting.
I think we're at a really big breaking point in history right now.
All these people down here that have been through tragedies in their life. They weren't born like this.
Wherever there's horses, there's going to be cowboys.
Immigration is an important issue in the upcoming presidential election. Arizona is on the front lines. We went down to the border to see what's really going on.
Gail Kokorik is an aid worker of Tucson Samaritans, a humanitarian group that provides provisions to migrants.
There's another walker.
Kokorik stops for a migrant from Guinea, Africa. She gives him some water and food, then sends him on his way. Then we reach a migrant camp where people have come from all over the world. One migrant from Ecuador, Francisco Toquiza, is among the approximate 100 migrants in the camp. He fled the violence in Ecuador.
Entonces no hay cómo andar en las calles. Entonces cualquier negocio no hay cómo tener. Entonces entran, roban, asaltan y ya pues hasta le matan dentro de nuestras casas.
During our interview, Border Patrol showed up. But the migrants didn't run away from Border Patrol. They ran towards them and lined up peacefully. About 24, mostly women and children, were taken away.
Millions and millions of people have gone through the process that you witnessed.
Todd Bensman is a senior national security fellow with the Center for Immigration Studies, which favors stricter immigration.
What you guys saw at the border was the process of immigrants giving themselves over, presenting themselves to Border Patrol agents for processing into the country.
Agent Benjamin Salcido works for the Tucson border sectors. They are very active.
Right now, we're one of the busiest sectors in the country.
Border Patrol migrants give. They are taken to a holding facility. The Border Patrol processed more than 2 million people who came across the southern border unauthorized in 2023.
Well, currently, right now, we're dealing with a lot of them that are claiming asylum. They're coming from all over the world.
The asylum law and the system as it is abused in a mass way.
Former President Trump had dramatically reduced illegal migration with Title 42, an anti-COVID measure. Once Biden took office, he revoked Title 42 and changed the policy for migrants crossing the border. This year, it's one of the top issues in the presidential election.
They're destroying the blood of our country. That's what they're doing.
I will not demonize immigrants saying they are poison in the blood of our country.
Dora Rodriguez, a member of Humane Borders, doesn't see the politics. She only sees the humanitarian aspect.
I am not a migrant. I am not an asylum seeker. I am not a wetback. I am a person.
Rodriguez fled the civil war in El Salvador in 1979. She and her group were abandoned in the desert by their smugglers. It was July, and the temperature was over 110 degrees. They were lost for 5 days.
We experienced the agony of dying with no water. We drink our own pee, because that's all we had.
Rodriguez survived. This is a photo of her being rescued by patrol agents.
I woke up to water in my face, in the arms of a border patrol.
Okay, buena suerte.
For Gail, the issue is simple.
Why do people get upset about migrants? That because we have a lousy immigration system that we won't revise, just because we refuse to reform our immigration laws doesn't mean people should die because of us being so stubborn.
Remember that migrant from Guinea? We met him later, trying to get into a holding center. A migrant, knocking on America's door, and no clear answer.
From Montclair News Lab, I'm Danny Masariegos. Water. It's necessary for human survival, but what happens when the water starts running out? Here in Arizona, water is more than a political issue. Grace Gonzalez has the story.
Kaywood Cotton Farms, located in Casa Grande, has been growing vegetables for 5 generations.
So we grow alfalfa, we also grow silage corn, and then we grow barley, and we also grow cotton.
Nancy Kaywood says her farm's water comes from the Gila River, which is currently experiencing low levels due to a mega drought. Local officials cut the water several times a year.
We have no water available. When our canals are dry, that's our only source of water.
Water policy expert Jay Famiglietti says Arizona's mega drought is affecting the Gila River and is linked to the climate crisis.
The dry areas of the world are getting drier because of climate change.
Famiglietti leads the Water Innovation Initiative at Arizona State University. He says one of their biggest challenges is found in the agricultural sector and in places like Nancy's Kaywood Farms.
First story is probably a common one. It's certainly one where farmers would have to basically stop farming because they didn't have the availability of water. It just becomes too stressful.
Besides climate change, Arizona's water issues are also connected to a booming home construction.
We don't know how much groundwater we have. We don't. I don't know how they're coming up with the 100-year so-called assured water supply.
According to various reports, real estate developments are finding loopholes through subdivisions of land. This famously affected the community of Rio Verde Foothills, which has spent an entire year without water.
We just hope that somehow the cities will slow down on their development and that we can hang on to our farmland.
Although Kaywood Cotton Farms is struggling to increase their water allocation, one irrigation project at the Gila River Indian community is bringing promising results.
What our charge is to build a modern irrigation system for the Gila River Indian community as it brings its water back home.
David DeYoung works as the director of the Pima Maricopa Irrigation Project. In 2004, the Gila community won a legal battle they had fought for decades to get better access to water from the Colorado River, which feeds the Gila River. The project has improved the water delivery system by rebuilding older dirt canals with concrete.
We modernized the system. It's all concrete lined. Water's flowing very efficiently through the line system.
Camille Cabello is part of the Ocamil Autumn indigenous community, one of the tribes in the Gila community. Her family farms oats and alfalfa. They benefit from their newly found water rights and from the irrigation project.
It's a lot easier to access our water now. We just give them a phone call and they send the water right away.
Despite the threats of climate change and real estate developments, farmers in Arizona are not giving up. They know agriculture is freedom. For Montclair News Lab, I'm Grace Gonzalez.
Phoenix has a critical homeless problem, but there is a group working to help people living on the street. Brandon Ely has the story.
South Central Phoenix, an industrial neighborhood. Metro Phoenix's homeless population has grown by 50% in the past 5 years.
I'm trying to get back to work. I can't go to work if I'm not in a stable housing.
Nationwide, 21% of individuals experiencing homelessness reported having a serious mental illness, and 16% reported having a substance use disorder. But some just have bad luck.
I've had some hardships recently with a lot of the layoffs and big tech layoffs.
Oh, you feel horrible.
Joel Copeland is an artist living and working in South Central. He's seen a lot.
I suppose the one that really takes the cake is the burning baby.
Joel remembers a dead fetus was found burned in the street.
I don't know whether it was a stillborn baby or whether it was a premature baby or what, but They didn't want it, so they thought the best thing to do is to put it in a wrap it in a newspaper and light it on fire.
But there may be a solution for those affected by homelessness. It's called Key Campus, and it's a comprehensive approach to helping the homeless. Amy Schwabenlender is the CEO.
We have 15 partner organizations on about 13 acres in 8 buildings. We're open every day of the year. Several services are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Besides shelter, Key Campus provides healthcare, legal advice, meals, help with getting permanent housing, and even employment. They can house 900 clients on campus at a time.
Each person is here because their journey, something was different about each of their journeys.
But there is a downside. The campus can only house so many. Those who do not receive assistance through the campus set up their tents outside of it and cause problems in the neighborhood.
It's just gotten too big. It's just gotten overburdened.
Amy Schwabenlender says this is a problem, but they are doing the best they can.
We don't have enough housing for everyone that wants to live in Arizona. We have homelessness, and we have this place where we provide all of these services, and we can't shelter everyone who's homeless, which makes homelessness visible.
While it's tough for Joel, he has responded with kindness. Joel has taken the time to get to know many living in the area. He paints their portraits and sometimes paints what's happening on his street. In this painting, a woman is depicted in crisis.
She tried to struggle. They called the ambulance and the EMTs came. And when she saw them, she just burst through like a linebacker and just started running down the sidewalk, and the cops grabbed her.
The problems are deep and difficult, but Amy Schwabenlender believes there is progress.
We know supportive housing works. We actually know a lot more now about prevention through the pandemic. And relatively small amounts of money can help people to stay housed.
It's a nationwide problem, getting worse by the day in Phoenix. But Key Campus is trying to be a part of the solution of a complex problem. For Montclair News Lab, I'm Brandon Ely.
The oppression of Indigenous people is a dark chapter in America's history. Today, Native communities are actively working to preserve their culture. For generations, Native Americans expressed their culture through the art of dance. But this type of dancing was actually illegal up until the 1970s. The federal religious crime codes banned Native dance and rituals. This attack on Native American culture was wide and deep. Part of the attack was the creation of Native boarding schools, run by the U.S. government and the Catholic Church. Reverend Canon Debbie Royals is the founder of the Council of Native American Ministry, a group that is a voice for Native Americans. Although she didn't go to a Native school, the Catholic church she attended wasn't much better.
We were actually told not to talk about our ceremonies. We would be punished in the school if the nuns or the priests would know.
She met us at the Heard Museum, where there is a permanent exhibit called Away from Home.
You see how solemn and sad so many of the kids are, right? When we're used to seeing children that are happy, smiling and playful, and they were getting them to look more and more westernized. And that was success, getting the Indian out of them.
Across town is the former Phoenix Industrial School, another form of school for Native Americans. Elena Celestua leads tours and tells the story of how students were trained to enter white society as domestic workers.
They were struggling because a lot of them were given new names, a new date of birth, and possibly a new religion. They had to cut their hair, take off their jewelry, put it in a pile and possibly burn it or throw it away and never to see it again.
Elena says people really don't know about this history.
To this day, sometimes I'll get the question, I thought you guys were extinct. I don't blame them, I blame our education system.
But Arizona State University is trying to correct this. There are courses teaching Indigenous studies, and there's even a student-run magazine written by and for Native students called Turning Points. Animation student Alonzo Corone contributes to the magazine.
Everyone has the ability to be able to speak on what they have been through, what they've experienced, who they are, especially in my case through art. That's what I try to do, is be able to reinvent and be able to show what Native art can be.
To continue a culture, it needs more than just courses and magazines. Cultural events like the annual Mukchukta Rodeo and Fair shows how Native people come together and celebrate their communities and identities. There were rides, laughter, and Indigenous entertainers. And an important part of this event is the Miss Indian Arizona pageant, Lainey Lupe holds the title.
I think this is an important tradition for it to be continued through our Indigenous women because it uplifts them and empowers them and also gives them a chance to experience and know other cultures.
Through efforts of education, art, and cultural events, Indigenous communities are keeping their culture alive for the next generation.
It is losing that element of shame and finding the places where we can celebrate that we made it through and we are resilient people.
How do you get young voters to hit the polls in a nation divided? In this swing state, young voters could make a huge difference. I had the chance to speak with students here at ASU.
I'm definitely going to be voting.
Most definitely.
I am planning to vote in this next election.
Arizona is gearing up for the presidential election, and Gen Z in this swing state do hit the polls. In 2016, 33% of young people voted in the presidential election in Arizona. In 2020, that number shot up to 51%. This could be why Arizona flipped blue for the first time in 30 years.
The Fox News Decision Desk is calling Arizona for Joe Biden. That is a big get for the Biden campaign.
And this year, the trend could continue.
It's very important this year coming up. There's lots going on in our country.
I think we're at a really big breaking point in history right now.
But young voters don't feel represented, largely due to the age of the candidates.
Most of the people there are old white people, and they just don't really represent our generation and what our needs are.
Avery Zola, voter education manager with the Citizens Clean Elections Commission, says Gen Z cares and wants to be involved in the conversation.
The young people are concerned about what's happening right now with like climate change, immigration, homelessness, lots of other social issues. And so they want a way that they can participate. And a lot of times they're not sure of what that looks like. And the last thing that a lot of times they're thinking of voting.
But the true challenge is getting young voters to believe that their voice is important. While young voters care, they don't believe politicians care about them.
I mean, I feel like neither Biden or Trump really represent I don't think they represent most people. I mean, I don't think most people can relate to either of them.
I feel as a young Black Hispanic man, there's not much representation of us in Congress and Senate.
According to a study conducted by the McCain Institute, most young Arizonans do not believe that elected officials, local or national, value their views. Only 46% of young Democrats and 36% of young Republicans believe political officials in Washington value their perspective. Additionally, only 47% of young Democrats and 56% of young Republicans believe that local officials did value their views.
In America right now, I don't feel like the majority of us feel represented, so I definitely don't.
With a discouraged young electorate, this begs the question, what can be done?
The biggest thing that candidates can do is listen to young people. And then you're going to want to ask for their vote, right? So
Zola says that young voters can even take their civic involvement to the next level.
Like at the end of the day, run for office, start your own coalition, mobilize for a cause. Like we can all do this ourselves.
In Arizona, Gen Z is getting ready to shake up the election. Will this be a year where young voters make a difference? For Montclair News Lab, I'm Terry Dickerson. Artists are always looking for a place to express themselves. There's a weekly event in downtown Phoenix that highlights creatives of color. Maurice Jenkins has the story.
If you're ready for the greatest show in the history of the state of Arizona, say yo!
He calls himself Cosmic Cadence, and he hosts Poetic Solo, a weekly show featuring poets and musicians.
We are or have become a space where the Black community can come together and by the couple hundreds per week on a weekly basis consistently to get together in positive energy, make connections and meet up with like-minded individuals to help foster better relationships in the community.
Maricopa County, which encompasses Phoenix, has a Black population that is growing nearly 7 times faster than its white population. Artists from across the country like Memphis and New York come here to perform.
Arizona, it kind of lacks its own culture. And it's a lot of people that come to Arizona from different cultures, and I feel like it's amazing to have a place where us as Black creatives can come, express ourselves, and be free.
It's definitely a center of Black culture, especially since it's downtown on Central. The event's been around for 8 years, It's definitely a center of influence of music in the area and one of the best open mics, period.
Cosmic is from Washington, D.C. He came to Phoenix more than a decade ago and saw a need for a new kind of performance space.
What I found is that in those rooms where these artists were performing, they were either the background noise for the crowds that were there or the individuals who were there in the room, which means they were performing and nobody clapped for them until they were done and everybody's like, oh, and that was it.
Cosmic sees his role as welcoming people of color to Phoenix and providing a space for them to express themselves.
There needs to be a more conscious effort to create spaces where the Black community can actually come together to just share in whatever they feel like is culturally relevant for themselves.
A growing population and a place for people to perform and be entertained. From Montclair News Lab, this is Maurice Jenkins.
The Grand Canyon is one of America's treasures. The National Park Service works to maintain the balance between the environment and tourism. Yasmin Yilmaz has the story.
The Grand Canyon is spectacular, and it's one of the natural wonders of the world, and it is in fact the only one in the U.S. In 2022, they hosted 4.7 million visitors, which resulted in $759 million in spending in the park itself and in the surrounding communities or the gateway communities to the Grand Canyon.
Tourism boosts both the park and the state's economy. However, Kathleen Anderek, who is an ASU director and professor, says the high numbers of visitors is causing problems.
There's the environmental issues of people having impacts because of traffic and cars and trampling and just too many people in one place, right? Having the kinds of negative effects we see on the environment, more development, destroying habitat. So more and more we're seeing parks implement measures to limit the numbers of people.
The park has implemented certain practices and regulations to help mitigate the overcrowding. Law enforcement ranger Adam Sherman further explains the balance rangers maintain between protection and tourism.
We are having to change our infrastructure. We're having to change our permits, our policies regarding long and short-term use of the park, simply to accommodate the numbers of people that are coming in and wanting to experience the Grand Canyon.
And part of that change includes limiting the amount of visitors traveling on the famous Colorado River. Regulating popular activities such as water rafting helps lower the impact to the environment.
We have to balance that to keep this unique landscape and this unique environment available for future generations.
And with that balance, visitors from around the globe can continue to cross this destination off their bucket list.
What happens when you send a Jersey guy out to the Wild West? We sent Nino DeNino to a different type of college to find out what it means to be a real cowboy.
New Jersey, traffic, the highways, and the never-ending debate between Taylor ham and pork roll. I love Jersey, but a man is not meant to be stuck in a car on Route 46. I want action. I want the thrill of a cattle drive. I want to be a cowboy. So I went to Cowboy College.
The Cowboy College is where we bring city slickers from all over the world.
Lori Bridwell runs this rodeo.
They just have a love for our way of life. They want to learn how to ride. They want to learn how to work cows. They want to see what our lifestyle is like.
I signed up for the abbreviated course. I'm going to become a cowboy in a day.
And we call him Q.
First up, grooming Q, a 24-year-old retired show horse. This guy's older than me. Laura McCallan is here to help.
Rub in circles. It's bringing the dirt, the dust, the dead hair up to the surface.
Then I cleaned his hooves.
And you can dig. That won't hurt him there.
Then it was time to saddle up Q. Peyton, 18 years old, is Lara's daughter.
You're going to swing it down and up and place it right on his back.
Yeah, it was heavier than I thought. Before I got to ride Q, it was time for a lasso lesson. Before I got on the horse, I asked Peyton for some advice.
I think my best advice would be don't fall off. Pretty much it. When you get on, don't fall off.
If I do, is it game over or is it?
No, you just get back on.
and then swing the leg over gently and sit down. We have one hand on the rein. Turn your hand over like that. Now you're doing really good, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a cowboy hat. We'll see how you look. You look the part. Yeah, black's your color.
I really got the hang of it, but there was one real cowboy lesson left.
Being a cowboy is not all fun and games. Sometimes you gotta shovel some shit. It's not my cup of tea, but
It was a fun, exciting, and sometimes smelly day I'll never forget.
from outside Scottsdale, Arizona, here at the Cowboy College, I'm Nino Danino, reporting for Montclair News Lab.
It's one thing to see the border on TV, and another to see it up close. We asked two of our classmates, Jennifer Sanchez and Eileen Alvarez Santiago, to sit down and share their experiences and their emotions.
This 30-foot wall, and you see barbed wires, and it's just like, this is real.
My parents are from a small town in Oaxaca, Mexico.
My parents immigrated from Ecuador.
Although our parents came in differently, the sight of the border was strong to see for the both of us.
I called my dad immediately, and I thanked him for every single little bit of sacrifice, for everything that he did.
I remember her tearing up, crying, and I was crying too because seeing just clothes in the desert, a backpack, a baby girl's backpack, a bottle.
Driving the miles around that wall, you see migrants walking. There's a sense of privilege I was feeling because, I can just be in a car and I'm fine.
Then we arrived at a migrant camp right in the shadow of the wall.
Just even driving up and seeing the tents, that was insane to just roll up to the camp like that. And then you see everyone looking and it kind of looks like they're waiting for someone to get them. And again, it is that guilt of, I get to just roll in and out. It just hurts your heart because you don't know what's going to happen.
I sent them a message to my parents. I sent them a whole long paragraph of like, I really want to thank you for the ultimate sacrifice that you guys have made.
Interviewing Francisco, I'm interviewing him, I'm asking questions. Out of nowhere, in that frame, you see people running behind him, like getting their stuff.
When Border Patrol showed up, I genuinely thought, everyone needs to start running. So I tried to stop Jennifer from talking to Francisco so he could start running. It was interesting seeing them grab their things, line up, and just seeing everyone calmly wait in line, kind of waiting to be chosen. And it was hard because I wanted to be there for Jennifer as well because I knew we were both crying.
This experience overall, how I'm gonna use it going forward is kind of being a lot more gracious and precious with how life is.
I think from this experience, I just feel more determined and I just feel more empowered. I do have a voice.
That's all for Arizona. It's been an incredible experience for these student journalists.
We want to thank the people of Arizona for their hospitality. We also would like to thank our professors, Tom Franklin and Steve McCarthy, and the School of Communication and Media for their support.
Until next time, happy trails and thank you for coming on this journey with us.